The rains are here. It's not gonna rain hopefully from now all the way until spring like it does sometimes here in the Pacific Northwest. But overall, the rains are here. So we're gonna be trying to do some stuff that's inside on the rainy days. On the days that it's not rainy, well, we'll work outside. So right now, I got the boys doing a very clean job. It's the cleanest job you've ever seen your whole life. They won't have any dirt on them by the end of the day, I promise that. And what are you guys doing? You got a kitty cat, don't you? Whoa, don't get clawed.
I'm trying not to.
Oh, that's a little barn cat. We got some barn cats up here at Herman's. And you boys are doing what?
Cleaning. And petting cats.
They're petting the cats and they're cleaning. Like I said, it was a very clean job. So I'll show you what they're up to. This is the old barn. I've brought you guys in here before, and it is a mess. It's a real mess. And so they are cleaning it up the best they can. And you guys are doing an excellent job.
Here's where we're mostly cleaning up.
Yeah, cute little kitten.
That one's the scratching one.
The other one likes to scratch. I know that was the one I was able to pet the first day. We brought him up here.
We were able to pet both.
I bet, yeah. So here's the deal. There's a lot of old boxes and stuff like that. Most of it's old boxes. That's actually what they're pulling out. They're pulling out all the old boxes, any of the old paper, that kind of stuff. Grain sacks, that kind of stuff. Stuff that's burnable. And when I say burnable, it's properly burnable, meaning, you know, it's not pumping a bunch of chemicals and stuff into the air. So that's what the boys are up to. They're in here, they're gonna be cleaning this up. And it was a real disaster in here, a real disaster. And so they've already done a lot. I like to put some of the equipment that could be put in a barn. And what I mean by that is like our gardening tools, that kind of stuff. The boys have done a really good job. And I know this is a disaster in here. I'm aware of that. We're working on it. It's a little here, a little there. But the boys cleaned up this corner, okay, and got that all cleaned up. There was a bunch of old bedding and stuff there. It still needs to be cleaned up. It's just slowly getting the stuff out. There's a bunch of doors. Here's all our glass that we've saved. It's all old canning glass. Some of those mason jars are actually really old, like back to the 20s. 1920s, not 2020s, just specifying that. So we're just trying to clean the place up, get a lot of stuff out, and then we can start looking at what's in here that's good. And what do I mean by what's in here that's good? Well, there's some really cool old stuff in here. There's old, like, horse-drawn mowers. This is a horse-drawn mower right here. Here's some of the blades, and there's some replacements around for that. There is a lot of stuff in here that could be used around the farm. Some of it just needs to be stored properly, and this barn is okay for storing stuff, but in its current shape and condition and with all the stuff everywhere, it's not very good for that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull out everything that's burnable, wood, cardboard, that kind of stuff that can go in a burn pile that'll help fuel our brush piles especially, and then any of the stuff that needs to go in the trash will go in the trash, and anything that can be recycled will be recycled. But for right now, the boys are just cleaning up in here. I'm gonna go work on the cooler. So we got some lights in here. This is gonna help a lot, not only for filming, but also for just being able to work in here. Because as of right now, I didn't have any lights. And as I board up the end of this down here, we're definitely not gonna have any light coming in from the outside. So as you can see, I've started to build out what I need to mount plywood on the outside, as well as to mount the foam on the inside, and we're going to continue to do that. I've already started down here with some of this, and as you can see, this is already attached. This is for my plywood on the outside. Now I do need to put some on the inside to help mount my foam on the inside over here as well. I am actually not going to vent this. There's a reason for it. The reason I'm not going to vent it is I'm going to insulate all the way up against my roof and coming out to the bottom of here, and then there's going to be insulation in here. The insulation that's right here is actually going to be a mineral wool insulation. But the other reason why I'm not going to vent is because we're going to be running an AC unit in here. So the main reason that you need to vent when you're going to insulate something like a cathedral ceiling is you have to vent because you'll build up condensation in there. We're not going to have that condensation issue because of the cooler, because we're going to be using an AC unit. It's going to be pulling a lot of that moisture out. So because of the fact we're going to be using AC unit, we're not going to need to worry about venting. The main reason you'd be worried about venting and something like that is if there was going to be a gap here that wasn't going to be insulated. But I'm going to insulate this. The main reason I'm going to insulate it is it's just going to give me a better R value on the roof. Now, it does mean that the R value of the roof is going to be different than the R value of the walls, but generally your roof is where you're going to be getting your sun beating down on it. Now, in this case, we're going to be really good because we're going to eventually have grapes going up over the top of this. The grapes are also going to add to the overall R value of the structure because they're going to actually be shading the structure and hopefully keep the structure even cooler. Now, the main reason why I'm going after all these little extra details to keep it cool in here is I really don't want to pay a really high power bill. It's not raining right now, so I can get out here and set up a little work table, and we should be able to get the plywood up right now. All right, let's do it. The ridge cap is on, as you can see, got that up there. And then we got the end down here, plywooded. It's nothing super fancy, but we did get that in. So this end is open, and the reason for this end being open still is because we're gonna be doing, or I'm gonna be installing some insulation into the rafters. And with that, I wanna make sure that the wind is able to blow through and kind of bring in some fresh air. I'm gonna use a mask, but I still want to have some fresh air in there. Now we are going to work on the barn. The boys have been working on it, and I'm going to help them. And hopefully we can get this cleaned up enough that it feels a little cleaner. Now, we're not going to get everything out, but we're going to put a dent into it because the boys started it, so we're going to finish it. The boys just took their bikes and they went up to the top. They're going to check to see how the goat feed is doing from yesterday and whether or not we need to cut some more down. And you'll probably hear them come back before we see them because those two like to drive pretty much with the throttle wide open. Boys, that's all I can say. Okay, let me show you what we got. All right, so we've done a lot of work. We cleaned up a lot. There's still stuff that needs to be cleaned up in here. There's also some stuff I didn't get rid of. These, we're not gonna use them, but Herman wants to keep them because we can use them for berries. And this is one of those things that you kind of have to pick your battle. It's not worth me throwing those away and him being upset about that. So I'll leave them there. In the future, at some point, I'll get rid of them. But it's a little change here, a little change there. You have to remember, he lives here. Even though he knows I own the place, I just have to be careful. He's 92. You know, he means a lot to us. And I already do a lot around here that rocks the boat. So I'm trying not to rock the boat any more than I already rock the boat. All right, we got all the boxes and junk out of this area. Cleaned it up really nice. Got cat food and cat cleaning supplies. We got some old antiques, some honey stuff, some random jars. That's okay. Some of that stuff is just what it is. You know, when you have a barn that's full of stuff that's 60 some years old, you know, it's what it is. So we did find out that the fan for the refrigerator still works. And so we may be able to salvage part of this unit at some point. Oh, here come the boys. There's one boy. Why is there only one boy? There's no way that they were able to figure out if the goats needed feed that quickly. At some point we may be able to salvage this cooler. I did look, and the insulation that's in these walls, it's some type of insulation inside of a foil. So potentially this insulation actually still is good. I have no idea. I have to take a closer look at it to see exactly what it is and how possibly good it could be. But we will, oh, here comes the boy. Let's see what he wants. Hey! Well, I guess it wasn't important. because he just totally ignored me. All right. No dad was needed at this point in time. Okay, so we will see if this insulation is still good. It may still be good. I have no idea. I do know that when we close this door, there is definitely a temperature difference between out here and in there, whether it's cooler or warmer, depending on time of year. So we will have to see. The fan on the evaporator, I believe, actually still works. So now it's a matter of seeing if the compressor and all that stuff still works. I think this is the switch for it, but that switch does nothing. Nothing turns on when I turn that on. So because nothing turns on when I turn that on, I have no idea. But we did find something, and actually Herman found it. Now let me tell you a story about why I don't open every 5-gallon bucket I find around the farm. Well, because Herman, sometimes when he would get a deer, is he would put all the guts and everything in a 5-gallon bucket and seal it up and discard it in a trash pile. So a few times I've opened 5-gallon buckets, not sure what was in them, 15, 20-year-old deer guts and organs and skull and stuff like that. That's a special smell. I'll tell you that right now. So I'm very hesitant to open 5-gallon buckets around here. Well, this was in the barn. And so Herman was over here while we were cleaning, and he goes, I wonder what's in there. And I go, I don't open 5-gallon buckets. And I told him why, and he laughed. He thought it was very funny. So he opened the 5-gallon bucket. I let him open it. Well, let me show you what we found inside. And it's actually really interesting, and it speaks a lot about Herman. And you'll understand what I mean by that when you see what's in here. But inside are 2 bags. And you're going, what is this? Well, this is leek seed. And it's an old variety. It says old on it. I asked him, does that mean old as in like it's not no good, or is that old as in like old variety? He said it's an old variety. And this is also leek seed. So one year he let all his leeks go to seed, which for Herman must have been pretty torturous. And then he harvested all the leek seeds. I just want you to think about that. Here's a man who gardened totally differently than most of us. There was no books. There were no things that he had other than what he had learned growing up on a farm in Switzerland. And then the things that he learned while doing it. He bought his seeds very rarely. How do I know that? Because I know the variety of seeds he has around here. He still has them. I've found buckets and buckets and buckets of seeds. I found a 5-gallon bucket of orach seed the other day, and we're going to use some of it in our pig pastures just as a cover crop, because it's a 5-gallon bucket of it. Like, what am I going to do with 5 gallons of orach? Most people don't even know what orach is. Here's somebody who has had the same variety of butter lettuce probably for the last 40, 50 years. The same variety of leeks, unless he bought his leeks in, for the last probably 40 or 50 years. The same variety of beans, pole beans, all these things. He has a whole entire library of these old seeds. And you're going, well, they're old, like this may be 5 years old. Yeah, but I'm willing to bet that most of this is perfectly good. And you're going, well, it's 5 years. How do I know that there's probably a really good chance that most of this is perfectly good? Because he's given me seeds before that were seriously old, and we've planted them and we've had perfectly fine germination. Now I'm not saying that that's like how you should garden. I'm just saying that Herman has been doing what he does when it comes to collecting his own seeds for most of his life. He's been on this farm for 65 years. So for at least 65 years he's been doing it. So that's very, very, very unique. And it's not something that I think most people do today. I mean, how many people do you know that actually know how to collect their seeds, have the patience to let a crop go to seed? In some cases, like kale, you have to wait all the way until spring for it to go to seed. It won't go to seed for you until it's gone through a whole winter, and then the next spring it'll go to seed. So there's all these little techniques that he knows about getting seeds off of his plants and how much he's going to need for the next year. So there's always a little bit planted for next year to go to seed. It's just a different way of gardening. It's very unique. And while Herman doesn't do everything the modern, way, and what I mean by that is the market gardener technique, wow, he's got such an incredible library of seeds and knowledge. And while me and him butt heads all the time about all kinds of things, and not in a bad way, we just have different perspectives on things. But I just figured I'd share that. When cleaning up around here, sometimes just taking a closer look is worth doing. And here's a great example. I've been a lot of leek seeds that would have just gotten thrown out. How much more of that kind of stuff is in here? Well, there is some stuff, and there's a lot of junk. And I say junk, it's not like his stuff that's junk. It's just old, buckets and old bags and old gunny sacks that the Mousies, as Herman calls them, have gotten in and torn up. The boys have been gone for quite a bit. My guess is they are having an adventure. So I'm probably going to go join them. And then when we're done, we're actually going to be hooking up Herman's TV. We got him a new TV. And the main reason for getting him a TV is he is really hard of hearing, very, very hard of hearing. And so he can't really enjoy church. And so I told him, I said, Herman, let's get you a TV, let's get you some internet up here, and I'll set up church for you. I'll still take him to church, but I'll set up church for you so that way you can enjoy it and you can read the message in closed captions. And he'll love that idea. It's going to cost him a little bit of money each month, but I think it's going to be worth it because he's going to be able to enjoy something that he really enjoys, which is church. That's the plan for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us today on A Simple Life. We appreciate you coming along and enjoying our adventures and everything that we're doing. It's a wonderful life, and it really is. By the way, I wanted to show you one more thing before we go. Look at the patina on the tin. I'm really happy with it. Like this, we just got that rain last week, and the patina, it just cleaned up really, really nice. And I'm really surprised at how nicely it cleaned up. I'm really happy with it, to be honest. Now I have a mismatched ridge cap, but hey, one step at a time. All right, have a good one. Bye.